Hey there and welcome. So, if you've ever been in the game of buying or selling stuff across borders, you know it can get complicated fast. Who's responsible for what? And, the really big question, who pays if something goes wrong? Well, today we're going to decode the secret language of global trade, Incoterms. Just picture this for a second. A container full of your product is on a ship somewhere in the middle of the ocean. A massive storm rolls in, and poof, the container's gone. So who's on the hook for that loss? You, the seller, or your customer, the buyer? The answer to that absolutely critical question isn't just a coin toss. It's all determined by a single three-letter code. And that code is part of the Incoterms rules. The best way to think about them is as the official playbook for global shipping. They're a globally recognized set of terms that lay out exactly who's responsible for what, who pays for what, and this is the big one, who carries the risk when things go sideways. All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start with the basics, then we're going to walk through the four main groups of Incoterms. That's E, F, C, and D. We'll start with the seller does the least and work our way up to where they do the most. I like to think of it like a relay race. We're going to see exactly where that baton of risk and cost gets passed from the seller to the buyer. And then we'll wrap up with how you can pick the right term for you. Okay, first up, we have Group E. Think of this as the absolute starting point on our journey. If you're the seller, hey, this is the easy life. But if you're the buyer, well, you're doing pretty much all the heavy lifting. The whole idea here is super simple. The seller just has to get the goods ready at their own place. That's it. From that moment on, the entire journey, the loading, the trucking, the shipping, customs, all of it, it's all on the buyer's shoulders. And the one and only term here is EXW, which stands for X works. The seller's big job? Just have the stuff packed and ready to go. The buyer? They have to handle literally everything else, arranging the trucks, getting the export license, you name it. And that baton pass, it happens the second those goods are picked up from the seller's factory door. All right, let's climb one rung up the ladder to Group F. Here, the seller starts to take on a little bit more of the work. They're in charge of that first part of the trip, but they do not pay for the main international shipment. So here's the deal with this group. The buyer is still the one picking and paying for the main ride, the big ship or plane ride. But now, the seller has to actually get the goods to that carrier and deal with all the export paperwork. Now, the most popular kid in this group is FCA, or free carrier, and it's popular for a reason. It's super flexible. The seller's job is to get the goods to whatever carrier or place the buyer has picked out. As soon as they hand it over, boom, their job is done. Risk transfers right then and there. Okay, now let's get specific to shipping by sea. We have FAS, or free alongside ship. And alongside is the key word here. The seller's responsibility literally ends when the goods are sitting on the dock right next to the boat. Not on it, just next to it. That's the moment the risk flips over to the buyer. And this is a perfect lead-in to maybe the most famous term, FOB, or free on board. With FOB, the seller has to do more than just get it to the port. They're on the hook for getting the goods loaded on board the ship. That invisible line, the ship's rail, that's the magic line. Once the cargo crosses that rail, the buyer is officially in charge of all the risk and all the cost. All right, deep breath, because now we're in Group C, and this is where things get a little weird, a little counterintuitive, so pay close attention. In this group, the seller pays for the main international trip, but, and here's the twist, the risk transfers to the buyer way earlier. Yeah, you heard that right. Let it sink in for a second. The seller is paying for the big journey, but if that ship hits a storm halfway across the ocean, it's actually the buyer's problem. The handover of cost and the handover of risk happen in two totally different places. Okay, let's see how this works with CFR, or cost and freight. The seller pays for the shipping all the way to the destination port. Sounds great for the buyer, right? But, and this is the gotcha, the buyer's risk starts the second those goods are loaded onto the ship, way back at the beginning of the trip. Next up is CIF. It's basically CFR's twin, with just one key difference, insurance. The I in CIF stands for insurance. So the seller still pays for the freight, but they also have to buy a basic insurance policy to cover the buyer's risk during the trip. But remember, even with insurance, the risk itself still transfers to the buyer back at that port of origin. So, what if you're not using a ship? Maybe it's by truck or a train. That's where CPT, or carriage paid to, comes in.
It's pretty much the all-purpose version of CFR. The seller pays for the ride to the destination, but the risk passes to the buyer as soon as the goods are handed to the very first driver or carrier. And you can probably guess what's coming next. Just like CIF adds insurance to CFR, CIP adds insurance to CPT. It stands for Carriage and Insurance Paid To. The rules are the same, but with CIP, the seller has to pony up for a really good insurance policy to cover the buyer's cargo. All right, we have made it to the top of the ladder. This is Group D, and it's the complete opposite of where we started. Here, the seller takes on pretty much all the responsibility, all the cost, and all the risk, all the way to the buyer's front door. Yeah, if you're a buyer, these are the sleep easy at night terms. The seller handles the whole shebang, the main journey, export paperwork, and they carry all the risk until those goods show up where they're supposed to. That baton pass we've been talking about, it happens right at the very end of the race.
Okay, let's quickly run through the 3D terms. First, there's DAP, delivered at place. The seller gets the goods to the destination, but they're still on the truck, ready for the buyer to unload. Next level up is DPU, delivered at place unloaded. Now the seller is responsible for unloading it too. And then you've got the full service VIP treatment, DDP, or delivered duty paid. The seller does everything, delivers it, unloads it, and pays all the import taxes and duties. Everything.
Whew, okay, so we've covered a lot. The big question now is, how on earth do you choose the right one for you? It's not about just pointing at a list. It's really about matching the term to what your business can handle. I think it boils down to 3 key questions. First, what's your appetite for risk? How much control do you really need over the process? If you want to manage everything, maybe EXW is your jam. Second, what's your logistical muscle? Can you get a better shipping deal than your supplier? If you can, then one of the F group terms could save you some serious cash. And third, and this is absolutely crucial, whatever you decide, get it in writing. Be specific. State the term, the exact place, and the version of the rules. Something like FOB, Port of Shanghai, Incoterms 2020. And that's really the bottom line here. This isn't just some boring shipping detail. The Incoterm you choose impacts your final price, your cash flow, your customer service, everything. It is a massive strategic decision hiding inside a tiny 3-letter acronym. So, I'll leave you with this to chew on. Take a look at your own business. The Incoterm you're using right now, is it actually helping you, or could it be quietly hurting your bottom line? You might be surprised what a little change could do. Thanks for tuning in.